Good morning. This is Dominic Pascucci from JRG Advisors. Thank you for joining our webinar regarding self-funding, not just a solution for large employers. Before we get started, I wanted to provide you with some housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please type your question in the question box and press send. We will answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Within the next few days, we will send you a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, the webinar replay, and the answers to any questions. I want to welcome our valued clients and partners to this webinar. Our agenda for this morning is why self-funding, general health of your group, what's the real difference between fully insured and self-insured, advantages of self-funding medical benefits, stop-loss contract, what to watch out for, and then followed by your questions. So let's get started. Why self-funding? Well, as a small to medium-sized employer, why would you want to self-fund your medical, dental, and vision benefits? Well, the first reason is, unlike large employers who every month get their claims experience and detailed data concerning their expenditures, as a fully insured client under 100 employees, you get none of that. So therefore, you don't know where your money's going. Your employee benefits probably represent your second largest expenditure, probably behind salaries. So wouldn't you want to know where that money is going? Under a fully insured plan, you have no idea. And you self-fund, you actually pay your own claims out of the claims fund, and you get an accounting every single month. You can also get reports to show exactly what the money was spent for. Third, how do you know when you purchase your medical, dental, and vision benefits if you're getting a good deal? If you don't know the health of your employees and where the money and how much is being spent and where the money's going, how can you know whether you're getting a good deal from your insurance company? Also, when the renewal comes around and you get what most of us get is an annual rate increase, do you know why you're getting it? Can your broker explain to you, or your insurance representative explain to you why? And lastly, do you believe that insurance companies make money over the long term? I would imagine that all of us do, or else they wouldn't be in business. So let's examine why you should self-fund. First, most of us may know the general health of our employees, especially if we're a small employer with 5, 10, 15, 20 employees that we can see every day. However, those employees may have dependent coverage, and we don't get to see their dependents, and we don't know what their general health is. When you are fully insured, you never find that out. However, if you self-fund your benefits, the first thing that will happen if you generally have under 100 employees is you will receive a risk assessment derived from the medical questionnaires that your employees will fill out for themselves and their dependents. This will be a deselected report which will not show any identification for the employees. However, it will show all of the health status items for each employee and dependent. In addition, you will get a report that shows all of the prescription drugs that are being taken. This information is extremely valuable to an employer. First, you get to know whether you are a preferred risk, an average risk, or a below average risk. That can have a bearing on whether you should self-fund or whether you should stay fully insured. If you are less than 100 covered employees and fully insured, most insurance companies community rate your coverage. What that means is they blend all the claims together and all the premiums together and find out whether they've made money or not. If they haven't made money, most groups will get a rate increase. And sometimes even if they have made money, because of medical trend, you may still get a rate increase. And insurance companies tell you that they can't tell you what your claims experience is. They'll tell you that because it's community rated, it's all lumped together. However, I'm pretty sure that every single one of those companies can track your experience and do track your claims experience separately. Next, how often do you get a reduction in your premiums? I would venture to say almost never. And the reason is because of the community rating. Under the ACA, you have limited plan design options. You have many more options if you self-fund your benefits. And under a fully insured plan, if the insurance company loses money, as I said, you may still get a rate increase. But if they make money, you still get a rate increase. And that's because of the community rating. So if you self-fund, you will learn whether you're a preferred risk, an average risk, or a substandard risk. And I would say that if you are preferred or average, generally you'll be better off under a self-funded arrangement. And if you're a substandard risk, you're generally better off fully insured. So what's the real difference between fully insured and self-insured? The difference is for fully insured plans, the insurance company takes your premiums and they promise to pay your claims. Under a self-funded plan, it works the same way except you are the insurance company. So the insurance company under a fully insured plan gets to see your claims, gets to see the disabilities that are present in your group and can underwrite that group. Under a self-funded plan, because you are the insurance company, you get to see those items. So you can plan your future benefit adjustments in accordance with the health of your group. You may find that you need some form of wellness program that'll help improve the status of your group, the health status of your group. And insurance companies, when they're fully insured, will often, because of the high risk involved in the volume they have, lay off their risk with other insurance companies. Under a self-funded plan, since you're the insurance company, basically, paying your own claims, you can do the same thing. And this is done through stop-loss insurance that you purchase from an insurance company that will limit your exposure for your claims. There are two types of stop-loss insurance. The first type being specific, that will limit your risk on any individual claimant for the benefit period. There's also aggregate insurance, which limits all of your claims for the benefit period. If any one individual goes over the deductible that you've selected for specific, the insurance company will reimburse you for that money. And actually, it's not even a reimbursement. Your claims administrator will submit that claim in excess of your selected specific deductible, and the insurance company will advance the money. The same thing holds true for the aggregate stop-loss insurance. When at any point during that benefit period in any month that you exceed your monthly limit for claims, the insurance company will forward that money to the claims administrator to pay those excess claims in any one month. Then if at any point you get below the accumulated aggregate deductible, you will have to reimburse them for the excess that they paid you. When an employer establishes an employee benefit plan, regardless whether insured or self-insured, the ultimate responsibility to pay claims rests with the employer. You have to, even under a fully insured plan, you have to pay your premiums. And occasionally insurance companies fail. Not often, but it has happened. And I've had experience with an insurance company that did fail, and under a fully insured program, basically they run out whatever assets are left in the company, and if your claims don't get paid, then you're pretty much out of luck. With a self-funded plan, oftentimes the administrator holds your claims dollars for the entire benefit period, so if the insurance company fails, your claims dollars are still there and can still be paid out even though the insurance company failed. You may not get your excess claims paid, but at least your claims dollars for your claims under the aggregate can still be paid. Okay, let's go on to the next topic. The advantages of self-funding medical benefits, and I include dental and vision in that also. First of all, under the ACA, you're kind of limited to the benefits that you can have in your medical plan. Under self-funding, you have much more flexibility to design those benefits to exactly fit the needs of your group, which will be different from other groups. Under the ACA, you have limited flexibility, and some of those plans may not fit the desires and wishes of your employees or may not fit your finances. So self-funding gives you that flexibility to design the plan exactly as you need it, and also in the future to change the plan if you need to. You also pay premium tax when you're fully insured on the entire premium. When you self-fund, the claims fund is not taxable, and neither are the administrative charges from your administrator. The only thing taxable is the premium you actually pay to your stop-loss carrier, which represents roughly 10 to 15% of your total outlay. So you can see that your premium tax is much less. But the really important part of self-funding is you will get a breakdown every month of all your claims expenses. You can also get detailed reports to show where that money was spent. It'll break it down by hospital charges, surgical charges, diagnostic x-ray and lab, and on and on and on, doctor's visits, so that you know where the money's being spent. You will also know how much of it was paid by the plan and how much of it was paid by the employee or dependent through their deductibles and coinsurance. So you can, at the end of the year, when you get this data, or at renewal time, you can see if you need to make any plan changes. You also get a detailed breakdown of your prescription drug charges. So you can see whether the drugs being used were brand or generic, and how much were generic, how much were brand, and you can make changes to your plan to adjust where your benefit dollars are going. Your claims runs every month, as I said, will be detailed. You'll also get a check register to show where the amount of the checks and where that check went, so you know which providers are getting your money. Now, if not all your claim dollars are spent at the end of the year on a fully insured plan, the insurance company keeps the money. Under a self-funded plan, you will get a refund. Now, that varies from insurance company to insurance company. Some insurance companies will actually not give you the money, but credit it towards future payments to your plan. Other insurance companies may give you a third, 2/3, and some insurance companies will give you all of the money after a certain period of time. And that period of time will generally cover 3 to 6 to 9 months, whatever you selected as your run-out period for claims. And that's important because if you cancel at any time and decide you want to go back to a fully insured contract, those run-out claims belong to you as the, quote, insurance company, as a self-funded employer. So you are responsible to pay those run-out claims. So that if there's money left over in the claims fund, which generally for a small employer there will be, because the reserves that are there to cover the run-out are in those claims funds. So unless you've gone way over the predicted claims, there'll be money there to pay those run-out claims. And then at the end of that period, if there's any money left over, you will get it. Also, some insurance companies require that before you get any money back, that you must renew. A lot of other insurance companies will give you the money or a portion of the money even if you terminate. And what's important when you look at a self-funded contract for a small employer, and generally these contracts are called level funding contracts. And what that means is, under an ASO contract, generally for large employers, administrative services only, the employer will just pay the claims every month that are actually spent that month. For a level funded contract, which generally is issued to employers under 150 employees, you actually pay the predicted claims every month. And therefore, you may be paying more than the actual claims for that month, or you may be paying less if the claims for that month are larger than the accumulated aggregate deductible. So you would pay only the claims for that month that were billed to you in the claims fund, and then if that wasn't enough, the insurance company would supplement that with a payment so that all the claims get paid. At the year end, you will get your experience, and that experience will largely dictate your rate increase, or maybe no rate increase, or perhaps even a decrease because your aggregate attachment point was not reached, and you could actually get that amount lowered. The insurance company, because of the different sizes of the groups, generally between 5 and 150 employees will apply credibility to your renewal. So it won't just be based on your claims generally, it'll be based on credibility. And as each year passes, the claims experience will become more and more credible so that more of the rate renewal will be based upon your actual experience rather than your experience blended with a large portion of the manual rate. And the amount of the refund, as I said, depends upon your stop-loss contract. Generally, for my clients, I will not write a self-funded plan that does not release all of the excess claims at the end of the contract, regardless of whether you renew or not. Some companies will like to dabble, get their foot wet in self-funding, and if it doesn't work out at the end of the year because they exceed their aggregate deductible and claims are much higher, they don't have a liability, but generally their rate increase in their aggregate will be fairly large. Also, they may have an individual or more than one individual with a very large continuing claim that may result in a laser. And a laser is when an insurance company, upon renewal, says that we know that person's going to have a large claim. So instead of the specific deductible being, say, $25,000, they will make a specific deductible especially for that individual. And generally, it'll be for the size of the claim. So let's say they're predicting that claim will be $250,000. The spec deductible for that person will be $250,000. Now, the prudent thing to do at renewal time would be go back into an ACA plan that's community rated and take advantage of that. And the reason I like for people to have a contract that allows you to get money back at the end of the contract is if you're in a situation where you have a large rate increase because of a spec claim, you may have money left over on your aggregate. Even though the spec claim was large, the insurance company paid everything over the deductible. The rest of your claims may be below the aggregate, and you may have money in the claims fund. So you won't forfeit that money by leaving. Let's take a look now at the stop-loss contract. I can do an entire webinar on stop-loss contracts and probably not cover all of it. And if you've seen one stop-loss contract, you've seen one stop-loss contract. They are very similar, but all have differences, and sometimes those differences can be very meaningful. So what do I watch out for when you're reading a stop-loss contract or your broker or consultant is showing you your stop-loss contract? First thing you want to know is what's the benefit period. If you're coming out of a fully insured contract into a self-funded contract, all fully insured contracts include runout. That means that any claims that were incurred during your fully insured plan year but weren't paid, generally they're claims toward the last couple of months where they were incurred by one of your participants, but the provider hasn't billed it yet, or if they've billed it, it has gotten to the administrator, but they haven't paid it yet or administered it yet. And perhaps they have, but they've sent you a check run and you haven't funded it yet. At that point, those claims would not be paid if the fully insured carrier didn't have a run-out period. So generally, those claims should be paid in 3 months. But to be safe, sometimes you want to use a 6-month run-out period or a 9-month run-out period. I've even suggested to some clients where there are some claims that we know that were out there that were large, but we knew that for instance, a hospital claim may sometimes not be billed for 2 or 3 months. So in those instances, maybe we want to use a run-out period of 12 months. Well, under a fully insured contract, any claim that was incurred during that period would be paid upon presentation during a year after the termination. Under a self-funded contract, you actually have to select your run-out period. So if you look at a stop-loss contract, whether it's the specific or the aggregate, there'll be 2 numbers. You'll see 12/12. What does that mean? That means that the benefit period is 12 months, and that claim has to be incurred within 12 months and paid within 12 months. So that contract would not have a run-out period. That would mean if you were self-funded, all of the run-out claims would be the responsibility of the plan or the employer, who is the plan. So if you were proposed a 12/12 contract for your specific and your aggregate, I don't think that would be a very good move for a small employer, because if there is a large hospital claim within the last couple of months, you're going to be responsible for that. And because your stop-loss contract is 12/12, it won't get paid in that 12-month period, and therefore you'd be responsible for that claim without any stop-loss protection. So coming out of a fully insured plan where you have a run-out, you would generally take either a 12/15, 12/19, or 12/24 stop-loss contract, so you are protected if you terminate that contract during the run-out period. The other item that I would suggest that you go over very carefully are the exclusions. Generally, a stop-loss contract will not have any benefits listed in it. They will refer to your plan document. And whether you're fully insured or self-funded, you have a plan document. It's required by ERISA. So that plan document could be your insurance contract, as long as it has all the elements that ERISA requires to be in a plan document. If you're self-funded, your administrator will produce a plan document and summary plan descriptions for you. That plan document will determine what the benefits are under the plan. Generally, the stop-loss carrier will use your plan document as its guide as to what claims are eligible to be paid. However, there may be some plan exclusions in the stop-loss contract that may conflict with your plan document. And if that happens and it's not noticed, and you have a claim that's excluded under the stop-loss contract that is included under your plan document, the stop-loss carrier will not pay any claims that exceed the deductibles. So you're on the hook for that. So it is extremely important to make sure that your plan document either has the same exclusions as the stop-loss contract you select, or you need to select one that is in accordance with your plan document. The next item to check is, what is the definition of a paid claim? People think, well, that's easy. When I cut the check, that's a paid claim. In most stop-loss contracts, that is not the case. It used to be the case, but what happened is some employers under a self-funded contract think that they have the flexibility to not pay some claims on time. And what the administrators would do would be to cut the checks and then hold on to them until the employer sends the money. And that could be a month down the line, 2 months, 3 months. That is against the law under ERISA. Those claims need to be paid as soon as they are adjudicated by the administrator and as soon as they notify the plan that those claims occurred. The money is funded, checks are cut, and put in the mail. So the definition that is most common under a stop-loss contract for a paid claim is the claim is incurred, the claim is adjudicated, the claim is funded by the plan, and the check is cut and placed in some form of conveyance. That could be U.S. mail, UPS, FedEx, could be a wire transfer, but that money has to be in some form of conveyance. Cutting the check is not sufficient for it to count. And why is that important? It's important if you have a 12-12 contract and that check is cut. And I've seen this happen to clients because I have a lot of experience with self-funding, where the administrator cuts the check, but it doesn't get into the mail until a day after the contract period ends. Therefore, that claim, even though it was incurred and adjudicated and a check cut in time, because it was not mailed in time, it would not count under the stop-loss contract. So there are complications under self-funding that you don't have under a fully insured contract, as long as you pay your premiums under the fully insured contract. So there are a couple of disadvantages under a self-funded contract. The first is you have to fund your claims on time. If you don't fund your claims on time under ERISA, the plan administrator is forced after 60 days to send notices to every one of your plan participants that you are not funding the plan. This is a very uncomfortable situation for a plan administrator and employer. Also, that has to go to the DOL. And generally, based upon that, the DOL will come in and audit the administrator, the plan administrator, and the employer. So that's not an area that you want to get into because there are set heavy fines involved and perhaps jail time for either the administrator who causes this problem or the plan administrator at the employer. And I've also seen that occur. So that's what to watch out for in your stop-loss contract. On a separate webinar in the future, I will actually deal just with the stop-loss contract. So at this time, I'd like to entertain any questions that you may have. And I'd also like to announce that our next WebEd event is Thursday, June 8th at 10 a.m. The topic will be Prepare to Maximize Your Employee Benefits Program, the 4 C's approach.
The first question, does the claims data we get, if self-funded, contain personal information? In other words, is the data confidential, or will I know the health conditions of my employees?
That's a very good question. The risk assessment that you would get before you enter into your self-funded contract will be de-identified, and you will not know the health of each person. However, you will get some claims information, especially on a large claim, that may or may not be de-identified. The plan administrator would be allowed to view that information. Generally, no one else should see any claims information that is not de-identified. The reason is obvious. Also, I would recommend that whoever the plan administrator is would not be the HR person or any person who has the authority to terminate an employee, because seeing any claims information that is identified on an employee that may be a borderline employee that needs to be terminated could be a real problem. So generally the information will be de-identified. If it's not de-identified, it would be only sent to the plan administrator. I hope that answers your question.
The next question, if I go self-funded, can I return to a fully insured plan at any time?
No. When you're self-funded, you are committed for the 12-month period of the contract. Generally, stop-loss contracts will say if you terminate the stop-loss contract within 6 months, some are 4 months, some are 9 months, that you will be responsible for a certain percentage of the annual premium. The reason for that is they incur risk from day one. And if you have a large claim on day one and you leave in the second month, they haven't gotten very much money toward that claim. So you are basically in your self-funded contract for 12 months. I don't see a reason why you would leave, because you're fully protected. You know what your annual outlay is going to be. You can budget your monthly payments because you know what those are going to be, because you're going to get a bill just like a fully insured bill that will show your maximum for that month. And so I don't see why you would leave before the end of the year. Now, if you have horrible claims experience, if you have horrible experience with your plan administrator claims administrator, and you want to leave, fine. At the end of 12 months leave, you can go to a fully insured plan. If you set it up correctly, you're protected during your run out, and your fully insured carrier will cover you from the first day of their contract.
The next question, does self-funding relinquish my company from the Affordable Care Act coverage mandates and requirements?
The answer to that is no. You still have those requirements.
The next question, boy oh boy, this is a little confusing to me. Who can I call at JRG for a one-on-one explanation for my company? And what is Dom's phone number?
Okay, you may call me at JRG. My phone number is 412-480-1212, and I would be happy to give you a one-on-one.
We don't have any more questions, Dom.
Okay, well, I'd love to thank you for your attention this morning. As I said, You now have my phone number if there are any questions that come up or you want to deep dive into self-funding. Give me a call. I'd be happy to set up an appointment, sit down with you personally, answer all of your questions, and go into a lot greater detail. So again, thank you very much.